3DCoat's painting tools are super powerful. You can paint all you want in all kinds of channels, roughness, color, depth, and you can even use its very, very powerful symmetry system, which if you just use it in a general fashion, then it's fine. But if you'd like to use a special symmetry case called radial symmetry, well, it has its limitations. For example, if the model isn't perfectly flat, then you can see that this radial symmetry will not work as expected. You can see these lines are vanishing, and over there, since the symmetry is axis-based, these certain lines will disappear. Now you can extend the functionality to a general case axis where you say that you will pick this point and then it will respect somewhat the curvature of your model. But if it's too curved, after a while, you'll get the same issue. So let's see if we can do it here on the UV map, since this is a flat surface. Well, as you can see, unfortunately, the symmetry gizmo doesn't even appear. So for this, we turn to Blender for a neat hack. Okay, here we have the exact same elephant model, and we'll duplicate this, and we'll be applying a little bit of geometry nodes. Don't worry, it will only be 4 nodes, and you don't have to learn anything about geometry nodes to do this. You need to follow what you see on the screen. So you press New to create a new set of geometry nodes, and Shift A, you say you'd like a split edges node, which you just click and insert. Then the next node will be set position. Okay, and this node group will flatten our model into the shape of our UV map, if it exists. And it's important that you have a UV map. So set position needs a parameter, a named attribute in the position slot. So you say named attribute, and you can see it already disappeared, but here, if you click, you will have a number of options, and probably your UV that exists over here already is in the list. So you just click on it, and voila, there you have your flattened UVs. Now, one last note is important because these are not merged, and merge by distance is important to have these not as individual faces masquerading as one polygon island, but we actually need to merge verts that are in the same spot. So you can leave this distance parameter as is because that will probably pick up every duplicate vertex. Okay, and then we say Control A, G to apply it. Going to front view, press R and X and 90 degrees. So we just rotated it 90 degrees. Now, these little patches, I know for a fact, are the ears that this elephant has. So I'm going to make those patches the size of the physical ear on the model. Okay, so we're in front view, and I'll just Alt G to reset its position, and I'll S. I'm eyeballing this and this, so this and this to be around the same size. Okay, and let's just push it aside, and this should be good to go. Now note, these two models share the exact same UVs since they were created from each other, and the UV data didn't change in any case. Now all I have to do is merge these with Control J, and now I'm going to export this to 3DCoat to extend 3DCoat's functionality to the UV space. Okay, I'm back in 3DCoat. I'm importing the model, and there you go. Now we have all the benefits of having a flattened UV, and the symmetry system, even stencils will benefit from this. For example, let's just try and create a stencil onto this model. let's choose this dotted one, and let's resize it. Now, if we are on UV mapping and we want to scale this scale this stencil, then we can translate it, rotate it, translate it, scale it. But what we cannot do with UV mapping selected is scale it on one axis. It just doesn't work. This only works on the from camera feature. So if we go to front view and we scale it on the X or Y axis to make it, more elongated, then now we can use the new functionality of this flattened UV to have an elongated version that is basically a UV mapped version, since we brought the UVs from the UV editor into the viewport. So I think this is pretty neat, but this isn't the only benefit that this has. Let's delete this layer. We have translational symmetry. And in this case, the z-axis is irrelevant, so I don't want to have clones over there. I really need to push this to a smaller number. I already experimented with this, so I know that 0.4 and 0.4 will do the trick here. It always depends on how big your model is, so these numbers aren't anything that you should follow blindly. You got to dial in these numbers for your own projects. But look at this, for example. If you want to come up with a pattern yourself and not use an already pre-existing, stencil, because there are a million types of stencils, obviously, online. But if you want to R&D your own little patterns on a model, well, then you can just go ahead and say that, you know what, I'm looking exactly for this kind of pattern. I didn't find this online, but I can make it on my own. And then you can paint on the the fake UV map, and extend the functionality of the symmetry system onto the UV map. Okay, let's look at the radial symmetry. Radial symmetry, now you can kind of go to general case and say pick one, and then since we're on a flat surface, this will always work and translate to the curved model. Okay, so I think that's pretty neat. You can have you can go to any part of with this pick one, you can go to any part of the model and say that, yes, this is what I wanted. And although it does, depending on the UV stretching, it does stretch this. So be aware of that. But maybe where we have less of a UV stretch, I guess somewhere maybe here, and I'll pick over here, we can have a perfectly nice symmetrical array of brush strokes. So I hope this was useful. I think it has potential for a lot of things, mainly extending the symmetry system onto the UVs where unfortunately you cannot by default use. I hope you found this useful. See you in the next one. Cheers.